Hello, everybody. It's Larry, and welcome to part 4 of the 4-part series. This is by far my favorite one because, well, I just like the math of it, and I also like to prove things. And in this, we are absolutely going to prove things. So, there is this warning sign up, and please take this one seriously because there is a real chance of family secrets coming out when you do this. And we all take the DNA test. Some of us, do it. We don't understand really kind of what it means and how it affects us. Well, we're going to learn that today. And so, I'm laughing, but it is serious. We are going to verify, the parents and the grandparents, and you will learn how to do the rest of them. And there is a real chance that, based on my experience, about 1 in 4 or 5 people that have done DNA have either A, connected with family because they were adopted, or B, found out that the family wasn't theirs. So I would say DNA surprise is very real in about 20-25% of the people that deal with this. And if 5,000 people watch this video, that means 1,000 people that apply this are very likely to get a surprise. So when I put up this warning sign, this is real. So if you are somebody who's looking for your biological family, you've come to the right place. And if you're somebody who's here to verify your tree, warning, as many as 1 in 5 of you are about to get a surprise that's life-changing. It hurts, I can tell you firsthand. For those who don't know my story, I took a DNA test and I got a DNA surprise and found out that my father was not actually my father. And then when I applied these techniques, started ironing out and proving every node, I found out my mother's father wasn't her father either. So the warning's real, folks. So I'm going to give you this chance. 5 seconds. We're going to continue on. So if you're still here, you've been warned. 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. All right, so we're going to start with a blank tree. Now, we were working this whole series with Harold Kennedy, my father-in-law, and so we're wanting to triangulate. Now, we have a tree for Harold, which is like this, but what we want to do is we really want to, take this blank tree and overlay the information that we found in parts 1, 2, and 3 in order to do the validation. So we're going to ignore this tree at this point. It's there. But you'll notice in the triangulation, we're not going to reference this tree at all. We're going to be dealing with our matches and their trees. All right, so here's match number 1. And I'm just putting up their tree. We're going to make some observations. I like to go up, here's the parents, grandparents. I've got a Kennedy, White, Wade, and a private, Larimore, Davis, Ward, Carter, Huff, White, Drake. Okay, so now I'm going to go to my next one. And I'm going to look for similar names. Kennedy, Drake, Fields, and Hollingsworth. With the last one, let's go back. We had a Kennedy, Drake right here. Carter and Arvey. And here we've got a Carter and Arvella. So we can probably assume that Arvey was the nickname for Arvella. And so let's see what we got here. Ray, Diaz, Kennedy, Redding. Okay, there's Kennedy. Go up above that. There's Kennedy, Drake. Okay, so we see a commonality there. And you notice that they're at different levels. One's close, one's further up. Here's a Carter Kennedy, but doesn't have a spouse on this tree. And on here, we don't see any of those above. But now, on the early one, remember it was RV Drake and Arvella Drake. We do see a Drake. And so remember, these are trees that came from our clustering. So when we did the color coding and the clustering, we then put the column to public trees, and what we did is we looked at 5 or 6 of the closest trees, and that's what you're looking at right now. And then let's see what we got. We got one more here. We've got a Carter Kennedy, but this doesn't have a Drake. It's got a Pierce, but above that we got Kennedy, and then we've got somebody that put the maiden name as Kennedy. So obviously, they didn't put the maiden name. Maybe they don't know it. They just got Anna J. All right, so this is more like what you're going to see when you're doing it. So we're going to take the match number 1, and we're going to take their tree and lay it up on this blank that we had. And so match number 1 had a father of Jimmy, and then they had a father of Delbert and Carter and Arvey. Now what we're doing is we're looking at that one that we found a commonality. We found Carter and Arvey Drake or Arvella Drake in all but one of the trees, which was the Drake tree. So we found that commonality. So we're looking to show these trees from that commonality, because that commonality is most likely our MRCA. So we got match number 1, Jimmy, Delbert, Carter, and Arvie. And then we're going to take match number 2. We're going to do the same thing, except that they were much closer. But we're going to put Carter and Arvella in that same spot. So we had Clifton and then match number 2. So they were a child of Clifton, grandchildren of Carter and Arvella. And match number 3, we actually had to add a spot to the left because they're much further out. But again, we wanted to put Carter and Arvie in the same spot in this tree. So we had Bryant, unknown daughter, unknown son, and match 3, because in our tree it showed private, so we don't know who they were. And this one was the one that didn't have a spouse for Carter. It said Carter, an unknown spouse, Bryant, unknown daughter, and match number 4. So when we lay all of those on top of each other, and I did those with different colors so this part would make more sense. Black was match number 1, and you can see that over here in this second area right here. Okay, we got match number 1. Match number 2 is this red, okay? Match number 3 was the one that was all the way out here and covered all of this. And match number 4 was similar to match number 1 in that it started right here. All right, so when we put all these together, we noticed that all 4 of them had the Carter Kennedy, all 3 of them had the Arvie or Arvella Drake. And over here we had Delbert, Clifton, Bryant, and Bryant. Well, those 2 Bryants are the same, but we can't assume that the unknown daughters are the same, because there could be 2 daughters. So when you condense this up, what we have is Carter and Arvie, okay? And we've got 3 children, Delbert, Clifton, and Bryant, because we know the Bryant was the same. But we still have both unknown daughters, okay? And so this is what it looks like when we've overlaid those trees. All 4 of those unknown trees to us, we found this commonality. So now what we're going to do is we're going to begin to do some triangulation. And the way you do that is you begin counting. So we start with match number 1, and we're going to count how many spots up we go to Carter and Arvie, because it may be related to Carter, it may be related to Arvie, or maybe related to both. We don't know. But we're going to count up to that. So Jimmy is 1, Delbert is 2, and Carter is 3, and Arvie is 3. Okay, so we know this. So if that was the case, now we know what the CMS for this person is to Harold. And the CMS match is 523. Well, we look up on the ruler. We're not at 523, we're at 1700. And that's not a ruler, it's a tape measure, sorry. So we have to go 1, which would be step 4, and step 5 to get us to that 425-ish node, which is close to 523. And it's not going to be exact. I mean, it could be, but it's very rare that it's exact. So what this tells us is Harold is most likely 2 nodes below this common Carter and Arvie. Harold had to go up 2 nodes. He went up 2, they went up 3. Okay? So that says that Harold is probably a grandchild of Carter and Arvie. Now, we can make an inference from this that he is not going to be the child of Delbert. Because if that was the case, the MRCA would have gone 1 to Jimmy, 2 to Delbert, and Harold would have gone 1 to Delbert, which would have been 3, and this person would have matched at 1700, or 1819, or 16, somewhere in that area. But it matches at 523. So we know that the match is indeed going to be at Carter. And so we got the match, we know that that's 2. Now let's look at match number 2, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to count up to Carter and Arvella again. So we go 1 to Clifton, and then we're going to follow by going 2 to Carter and Arvella. All right? So now we need to know the match for this person. Well, this person matches at 804. Well, if we go Harold 1 more, that puts us to 17. He has to go 2. So again, what is this telling us? This is telling us that Harold is 2 steps below Carter and Arvella. All right, so again, we've got some confirmation now with 2 different trees that Harold is most likely the grandchild of Carter and Arvella. And just like we could assume that he's not going to be descended from Delbert, same thing here, because if he had been descended of Clifton, then he would have gone, this person would have gone 1 to Clifton, and Harold would have gone 1, and Clifton would have been the father, and that had been 3400. So we don't have that kind of matching going on here. So we know that that's not the case. So we're going to go on to our next match, because we know this is going to be 2. and match number 1 is going to be 2. All right? So we go to match number 3. And in match number 3, we're going to count up and go 1 to unknown son, 2 to unknown daughter, 3 to Bryant, and 4 to Carter and Arvy. So then we know that this person matches us at 973. Well, now wait a minute, 973, if up to Carter, that's already too high. I mean, Harold's got to have his match in there because Harold is not Carter. So we've got to erase that. All right. So we're going to get rid of that. And if the number is bigger, like this case, it's 973, and we have to go to the left, that means your MRCA is actually closer. And so since it's closer, then we're going to count again and go 1, 2, 3 to Bryant. We're just going to go down 1 and see what we got. And we go Harold 1 to Bryant, and that gives us the total of 4. And 973 CMS, and that fits perfectly at the 850. So now what this says is the MRCA for Harold and this person, the most common ancestor is Bryant. Well, we know that Harold is the grandchild of Carter and Arvy, and now we find that he's related to Bryant. And therefore we have his father. That's right. We've been able to determine the father from the matches by triangulation. Now, would we like to get more confirmation in this? You know, we got excited. We found a father. Well, yeah, we're going to go ahead and go to match 4. So we're going to do the same thing. Match 4. We're going to count up towards Carter, and we're also going to count towards Bryant. So we can go 1 to unknown daughter, 2 to Bryant, and since we are assuming that Bryant's the father, we're going to work on that assumption for this one. So we go 1 up by Harold, and that's 1700. So let's see if our assumption pans out. Well, this person matches at 1913. So it did match. So now we have 2 confirmations that Harold is the son of Bryant Kennedy, and we have two CMS matches that prove this. So we now know that Bryant is his father. We know this. So in our other tree, we know Bryant's the father. We also know, based on the others, that Carter or Arvella are his parents. Now, we don't have absolute proof here because we haven't been able to split Carter up from Arvella and find out. But had it been up to Carter, then this person, match 4, would have been 1, 2, 3 up to Carter. And then with Harold's 2 up to Carter, that'd have been 5, and this person would have matched at the 425-ish level. So because they matched at 1913, we know that they had to match at the 3rd step, not the 5th step. Okay? Now, let's look at match number 5. They didn't have an Arvella. And of course, it doesn't mean that Arvy's not the one, we just don't know. So we're going to count up 1, and we're going to go to unknown son, to John Kennedy, and we're going to go to Carter Kennedy, which is our shared match. Now, we know that John wasn't Harold's father, so we know that we need to go up 2, okay, to Carter. And so that puts us at the 425. So we're expecting this person to be somewhere, 300 to 600, and they're 118. Well, now this just kind of blows everything we did out of the water, doesn't it? Well, no. What that means is everybody else, remember they had Carter and Arvella, means that there's something odd in play here. And it's most likely a half kinship. And when you get that situation where you've got multiple confirmations of a node and one's odd, you typically have a half kinship in there. So we're going to add one more node, and that puts it at the 212. Now this 118 is actually closer to 106, so that really is kind of messing things up, but that's okay. The DNA doesn't split exact. So what this tells us is there was a different spouse, and it was Dent's Pierce. So this person came through Carter and Dent, which we have our match, and because it's a half kinship, it's as if it went one more node to the 212 node. Now this 118 is lower, it's almost to the 106. So if we take a look over in the DNA painter, as you see pulled up here, we entered 118, and we look over at the first cousin once removed, it says 439, but it's shaded out. But remember, this isn't a first cousin once removed, this is a half first cousin once removed. So we go to the other side, and so when we look at half first cousin once removed, it says that the average is 226, which is what we would have expected it to be. But look at the range. The range is 57 through 530. And that means that anywhere in that range is legitimately possible. This is a huge hint when we go to look at some of the other people on this side of the tree. There's a typical weaker genetic passing in the through true Kennedy Sirloin, and it does play out when Carter was married to Arvella Drake. The Drakes did pass along more, and you can see in places where Kennedy was split off, it was more of the other DNA that was passed along. And the reason the others are good and strong, and typically stronger, is they had that Redding. All of the others were Kennedy and Redding, and that combined DNA made their CMS a little bit stronger. Okay, so now let's look at what we just saw before in through lines, because through lines can be a very handy tool in doing this. Now, we laid it all out in the tree. Okay, we laid them all on top of each other and did them one by one. We did it manually because that's what you had to do before through lines came out. Well, through lines can do this for you. So now let's look at these same people but with through lines. So we have Judy, who goes up, and it's 804, and she goes up 1 2 to Carter, and he goes up 1 2 to Carter, and with our tape measure we knew that that was the right match. And then same here, we had one more distance. This was the 8, this was the 500, and here was the half kinship. All right, so see, it says half uncle. Now if you notice right here, this is one of the things you've got to watch with through lines. See here where it says half uncle? Okay, well, it says half uncle here, so why is hers 804 and not 425 or something? The answer is the way through lines works now. Before, through lines just kind of accepted other people and it fixed this problem. Well, now it shows it as a different relative. Remember, Bryant, we showed that Carter with RV. This person had Delbert with Carter and RV. And you come up here, it had Clifton with Arvella, not RV. And the computer did not say RV was a nickname of Arvella. The computer said, oh, then there was a daughter named RV and another daughter named Arvella, and then another daughter of another family called Dents. So this John was from Dents, and this person was from Arvella, and these two came from RV. Therefore, since Harold's under here, this person would be under the same person, RV. This is under a different spouse of Carter named Arvella, and this one of Dents. Even though RV and Arvella are the same person, through lines did not pick that up, and that's okay. Okay. Now, how do we know this? Well, let's go back to the census reports. So here's 1920 when Carter was married to RV. RV died in 23, and we see Clifton, Luther, Delbert, and Bryant. Okay. And we come over here. She came through Clifton. Well, Clifton was underneath RV. All right. So we look at the 1930. In 1930, we see Dents, and here it was Darcy. Millie, John, and then we'll go on, and I'll go back to that one here, and this came under John, and that was under Dents. And so the others were adopted. And you see right here, there's an H. He's the head of household, but the H here means she reported it, so she reported son, daughter, and then these is adopted. Okay, so these were not her biological. And you can confirm that over here. We talked about this in part 3. We looked at this specific census. But, here it says Texas, and Texas. And then, the father is in Texas, but she's from Oklahoma. Now, her kids were born in Oklahoma, and here it shows they were born in Oklahoma. So that's another way that you can verify, the adoptive situation. So there you have it. That's how you can triangulate using just the DNA trees like we did before. Or right here, you can use this, use your through lines. Through lines, when we did the overlay tree and we laid all the names on top of each other, that's what through lines is doing for you. Behind the scenes, it's taken all of those trees that are out there and it's laid them all on top of you. So you can work right straight from through lines to do triangulation. And that's really what is so magical about through lines. Now, I know a lot of people say, oh, I want to see my recommended relatives. And it's great for that. Don't get me wrong. It's absolutely great for that. But what it's even better at, in my opinion, is helping you with your triangulation. So for right here, I can look at this level for Carter Kennedy and find out who's there and look at each one of these. And I'd have to check the census over here with Judy to find out why this half was not 425. So there's still a lot of work to be done on my end, even with through lines. Well, I hope you enjoyed the mini-series, and as you can tell, each one of these could be broken down into a series in and of themselves, and maybe we'll follow that route. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't subscribed already, subscribe. That way you don't miss out on anything. Click the bell notification. That's the only way you get guaranteed that you'll be notified. Just subscribing doesn't notify you, but if you click the bell next to the subscribe button, that will let you know that a new video has come out from us. And as always, thank you all and wish you all a great week.